Today we're going to talk about analyzing characters. We've done some work with comparing and analyzing texts that we know well. Yesterday you made a chart to help keep track of titles, issues or themes, and characters, and I believe even setting to help us quickly recall text. Knowledgeable readers often analyze the differences in characters as well. We may pay attention to their backgrounds, pressures, perspectives, ways they respond to trouble, and how those characteristics affect the theme. I think about books I've read and know well. I'm going to do this work with the characters in Fox and Stolen Party. I thought about the protagonists in these two books, Magpie and Rosaura. I then thought about how they were different. I put this information in a chart so that it was easy for me to keep track of it visually. So as I'm going over the charts in a minute, I want you to think about how I thought about two books I knew well. Then I set up a chart that will help me keep track of characters in these two books. Then I revisit my book, my post-it notes, to gather some of the evidence. I add it to my chart, and then to look at differences in the characters and think about how it relates to the common theme. So I'm going to start by finding a common theme. In this case, I'm going to use a different one than I did before. I'm going to say, when presented with controversy, it's important to know who you are so you stick up for yourselves. So let's look at the chart. Okay, so when presented with controversy, it is important to know who you are so that you can stick up for yourself. How does that look? Let's look at our characters' backgrounds. In Fox, she's pessimistic. She feels sorry for herself about her burnt wing, and she thinks life is over. She's insecure. Rosario, though, is the opposite. She's optimistic about being invited to the party, confident. She thinks she is allowed in the kitchen because she's special and better than the others, but her mom knows the truth. Pressures. Fox ends up in the end, she can't resist the pressure to go off with, Magpie can't resist the pressure to go off with Fox, and she gives in. The pressures in the Stolen Party are about fitting in with a higher social class. How about perspectives? Magpie, initially she thinks Fox is bad news. Rosario thinks she's allowed in the kitchen because she is special and better than others. Ways they respond to trouble. At first, Magpie is alert to the trouble Fox brings to the friendship between Dog and Magpie, but gives into the pressure and doesn't stand up for what she thought was right. Originally, she's saying, no, I'm loyal, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to go, but she doesn't stick up with what she knows is right. She goes off with him. Rosario was getting annoyed with the girl with the bow because she kept questioning why she was at the party. So Rosario kicked her in the shin as a way of standing up for herself to this girl that was making her seem as though she didn't belong. She also kind of stands up to her mother in the beginning. How the characteristics affect the way the text suggests an idea or theme. Magpie tries to stick up for herself at first, but ends up giving into Fox's manipulative ways. Rosario sticks up for herself during her initial altercation with the girl with the bow, even though Rosario was the one that was in the dark as to why she was at the party. She was confident enough to stick up for herself. She believed that she was supposed to be there. So let's go back to our, and of course we have to start it over again. Okay, so that's an example of one chart covering two characters in two different stories. Let's just remember that you can always go into my resource folder and go into the presentations, and you can go through this slower and look at that chart. So what you need to do is to start with the book you are currently reading and add that one to your chart as much as possible at this time. Then think of the most recent books you've read this year and fill out a chart for those. I think it would be easier to do this on a separate chart for each book, but you do it however you want. Okay, I'm sorry. Off you go then. That's what you need to work on today is that chart.